Independence Day Resurgence is the sequel to the original film from 1996 and is once again directed by Roland Emmerich. Oh, and on a side note, some people say Roland Emmerich. It's Emmerich. And in this movie, in terms of returning cast members, you have Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, Judd Hirsch, and Brett Spiner. Sadly, Will Smith is not back, and filling in for him is the character of his son, played by Jessie T. Usher, and also in this movie you have Maika, Monroe, and Liam Hemsworth. And for some reason, this movie's taken 20 years to come out. You know how long I've been hearing about this movie? And basically, this movie has the exact same plot as the first one. The aliens come back to Earth, and they want to take over the world. That's pretty much it. Honestly, this movie's plot is very similar to the first movie, but one of the most notable differences I found is that now the humans have alien-grade technology and weaponry that they can use to take on this race. So obviously there's not a lot to this movie, but let's talk about the first Independence Day. I've always enjoyed it. I think it has two great characters in Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, and the movie's an incredible amount of fun. It's a movie that just screams summer blockbuster, and you can just sit down and have an amazing amount of fun with it. It's a perfect movie to watch on the 4th of July. So there's no reason to get critical when you watch the first Independence Day movie, because it's just a movie that you can turn your brain off and have fun with. So my expectations for a sequel that's released 20 years after the original aren't going to entail that much. I wanted 2 hours of Jeff Goldblum being awesome. I wanted some really fun action sequences involving dogfights and aliens and all that stuff. And I wanted the characters to be entertaining and fun to watch. So how is this movie? Well, it's a big bloated CGI fest filled with mindless action and a ton of destruction. And the way I just described it to you is totally fine with me. That kind of formula can add up to be a really fun summer blockbuster. But the amount of CGI or the over-the-top nature of it is not why I didn't enjoy this movie. The reason why I didn't enjoy this movie is because of the lack of charisma or energy that this movie puts out. It really suffers from those two things. This is one of those movies that feels completely dull and lifeless, and it feels like its heart is completely in its wallet. You know what I mean? Let's talk about the characters, because holy crap, there are way too many characters in this movie. We get introduced to a ton of people at the beginning of the film, then we get introduced to the returning cast members, and then people just keep coming in, and then in the middle of the movie, Jeff Goldblum's dad meets this car full of kids, and we have to get emotionally attached to these characters who have literally had 30 minutes or less of screen time. What? Will Smith's absence in this movie is so incredibly apparent because the replacement they got for him, the character of his son, played by Jessie T. Usher, is so painfully bland. I'm talking like Jai Courtney in Terminator Genesis bland. There's this one scene where he goes to the moon and he's talking to the president from a video transmission. And this is basically how the scene goes. Hey, what's it like up there, Hiller? It's truly a humbling experience to see it myself, Madam President. Thank you. It's really sad because Will Smith is an actor with so much charisma and he really fills up the screen when you watch him in the first Independence Day movie. And this kid has nothing on that character. Liam Hemsworth is in this movie as well, and like all of his other characters, he just kind of plays himself, and I found him to be very forgettable when I left the theater. Maika Monroe was good in this movie for the most part, but the only problem is that she barely had enough screen time. That's the problem with this movie. It has a really hard time juggling its absurd amount of characters, and it leaves some people that you were supposed to get emotionally attached to without enough screen time. Also, Dr. Brackish is one of the returning characters in this movie, and didn't you think he died in the first Independence Day? Me too. But nope, apparently he was just in a coma for 20 years. Really? Is that not the cheapest way to bring back a character? Just say he was in a coma for 20 years and then he wakes up so this movie can happen? I hate crap like that in movies. And do you remember Harvey Fierstein in the first movie? The guy that's like, oh, I gotta call my mother. No, wait, I gotta call my lawyer. No, forget my lawyer. Yeah, that guy. Harvey Fierstein isn't in this movie, but there's a character named Floyd who they obviously tried to get to replace his character. He has the same kind of silly humor and stuff. But the only problem is that his jokes are so unfunny. He's like the most annoying character in this entire movie. Just take a guess. What do you think is the best thing about this movie? You already know it going in. It's Jeff Goldblum. He's one of the most likable actors in Hollywood right now, and he's proven that even if he's in a movie that's not that good, he'll always be the bright spot of it. He had some really great moments in this movie. He was really funny. And whenever he was on screen, I could just forget about how crappy all the other characters were. Is there anything else that I enjoyed about this movie? Some of the dogfight sequences were really cool. I really liked them. And there's this great action sequence toward the end involving Jeff Goldblum, a school bus, and a 50-foot tall alien. Is that not exciting? But guys, that's basically it. This movie leaves very little to be desired, and I think it's mainly because of the dull, uncharismatic characters and the complete lack of energy that this movie put out. This is just another bloated CGI fest completely devoid of heart and character, minus Jeff Goldblum. And I can definitely say this, the first Independence Day reminds me of a time when films were just made for innocent fun and good times. And Independence Day 2 reminds me of greedy asshole film studios that have completely run out of ideas and are now just using their old classics and milking them into franchises. If you just love the original Independence Day and can't get enough of Jeff Goldblum being awesome for 2 hours, then go see this movie, but other than that, I really can't recommend this. I'm gonna give Independence Day Resurgence a 6 out of 10. Also, this movie ends with like the dumbest setup for Independence Day 3. I was just sitting in my seat like cringing and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Guys, thank you so much for watching this review, and if you haven't already, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Oh, and by the way, Entertainment Talk is not dead. I'm planning on bringing that back this coming weekend or next weekend as soon as I can. I've just had a lot of stuff to do. I really want to get back to that show, so I just wanted to give you a little update as to what's going on with that. I really want to do that again. I'm going to do it as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me, and I'll see you later. Bye.